it going, everyone? Today I have a super exciting video. We're going to be putting a new ICM3 into my 2003 Saab 9 that has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integrated into it. I want to start off by saying a huge thank you to Saab Unleashed. You can check out his channel. It'll be linked at the top of the description down below. But he's the genius behind this entire thing. Pretty much what he has done is taken an ICM3. This is the ICM3 that was in my car I removed about a month or two ago and sent off to him. Basically, he took a stock ICM3, he tore it all apart, cut a couple holes in it, and pretty much fitted a smart screen phone, or smartphone screen, I can't talk, onto here, and pretty much gives it modern capabilities without losing the stock look. Now the other great thing about this, and I'll explain some of the features more, and you can also check out his channel for some more information on this as well, is I'm still gonna be able to use the radio, I'm still gonna be able to use the steering wheel controls, things like that, so I'm not really losing much of anything when it comes to stock features. I'm an Apple user, so the variant that I had put together was for Apple CarPlay. He does offer an entire kit that comes with everything you need to turn your ICM3 into this right here. Now I have a bunch of parts inside that we're going to need to connect up here so that way we can get it all working. Again, I would highly recommend watching Stuart's videos. His channel is Saab Unleashed. It will be linked at the top of the description. Once again, a huge thank you to him for doing this for me. Again, you can buy all the parts. I'll link the kits in the description as well. There's one for Android Auto, there's one for Apple CarPlay. He has a few different kits out there, and then videos on how to build it yourself. Obviously the ICM3 is not super common, so he did recently come out with a similar version to this with an ICM2 with a smaller screen. I'm not going to talk too much about that in this video, but I think without further ado, it's time to head inside and start getting this all put together, all the necessary cables hooked up, so we can install it in the car. So once we've gotten this far in the process, again, I'm not going to show how all of this was built. Stuart has a video on that on his channel. I do, however, have another box of parts here. Oh, it's upside down. You can see if we open this up, we got the Raspberry Pi, we've got a microphone, about 8 different cables and connectors that I don't know how he figured out how this all went together to make this work, but it does. So we're gonna have to hook all that up right now, and then we'll be ready to throw it in the car. First thing we're gonna start with here is the Raspberry Pi. Put a nice little Saab sticker on it too. This is pretty much the brains. It's gonna make all this communicate with each other. So if you look, there are a variety of different ports on here. Lots of USBs. The first thing we're gonna do is take this cable here, which is very delicate. We're gonna plug it into the second micro HDMI port right here. Next we have, this is called the sound card. I already have a bunch of other stuff hooked up to it, which I'll explain here in a minute. But we're gonna hook this just into any of these USB ports right here. Then you'll see you have a little Bluetooth adapter that as well is going to go into just any one of these little USB ports here. Connected to this sound card, we have an auxiliary wire, which is going to plug into the actual car right here. This connector might look a little familiar. So that is going to plug into the green port right here. Now on the red port on the other side, we have a microphone. This, I haven't figured out where I'm going to put it yet. Possibly somewhere, you know, on the A-pillar, or Stuart mentions A-pillar, or behind the mirror, the rear view mirror. So that's a future problem though. Now we have our USB that comes out of the ICM3. We're gonna plug that into one of the other connectors. I'm trying to do this in a neat fashion. One of the other USB outlets here. So if you don't have the Apple CarPlay kit, I think you're just about done here. But if you have the Apple CarPlay kit like myself, there are a couple extra steps. First, we need to install this CarLink adapter. This goes into the last remaining USB port that you have. Now we've got another USB to USB-C. This USB-C side is going to go into the Raspberry Pi here. And then this USB is going to connect to this last adapter we have. And this is what's going to actually power the Raspberry Pi. So we'll have to install that in the car. And that's just about all of it. It's a big mess of wires, but it all comes together to work and make this thing capable of having Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. One other quick thing I wanted to mention before we get into this, for you guys that have 2007 and newer Saabs, he does not yet have a kit like this for 07 and newer 9.3s. However, 07 and newer 9.3s have the advantage of not having fiber optic systems, and meaning you can pretty much put any aftermarket head unit you want in your 9.3. So maybe he'll come out with one in the future, but for now, this is only applicable for 03 to 06 9.3s. In order to do this, we're gonna have to do a couple things. Unfortunately, we can't just pull this ICM out, put the new one in, and be good. There are a couple wires we have to run. Thankfully, it's not too difficult though. So we're gonna need to take out the air vent, the ICM, the climate control, and then this is the EHU back here behind the CD player. So we're gonna need to access the plugs for that. So got a good amount of stuff we need to remove. Thankfully though, it's all pretty straightforward. Now we've got our two T25 ICM bolts. If you guys saw the video where I actually removed my ICM3 to send this out to Stuart, I dropped one of the ICM bolts back behind the car, so maybe we'll find... It just happened again, which is why when I went to the junkyard I grabbed two new ICM bolts, because I had a feeling this would happen. So you know what, we're not going to worry about it, it's okay. But now we can pull this out. There's one big plug back here we need to disconnect. So that's out. Next is the easiest one by far, that's the climate control. You literally just wedge your pry tool back in here and it just pops straight out. Like so. There are two connectors on here. There's our climate control out. Now for this next step, I need to go grab the key because we're going to need to pull the car into drive. If you have a manual though, you can just pull it down in the 4th gear or 2nd gear or 6th, reverse, whatever happens to be down here. So I just need to put it into the off position. I can put the car in drive. Now you'll see there are two huge metal tabs. They're big enough that you can put your fingers on them. So with those two clips pulled in, I just wedged a screwdriver to break one loose, and then I stuck this flathead in the other side, and I just reached my hand the whole way back behind the EHU, and I was able to kind of break it loose and finally pull it forward. Definitely did not want to come out. Now that we have our EHU out, you'll see I have my my Bluetooth connector here actually. So we're gonna have to remove that first of all. If you didn't see this video where I installed Bluetooth, this is also for 03 to 06. Check that out. It's a nice cheap way to get basically OEM Bluetooth in your car. But this is gonna come with Bluetooth and about a million other more modern features. So I don't care that I'm removing this. So if you actually disconnect, there's like a big pack of plugs. There's 4 different connectors in here, I think. Maybe 5 actually. And you'll see if your car does not already have aux, it should look exactly like this. Now if your car does have aux, you'll need to do what I just did, which is unplug this connector right here. Because one of our new connectors for the head unit is going to slide right back in where that one was. You can see that's now in there. Now this I'm probably going to end up disconnecting because if you see here it has the 3.5 aux jack, which I hooked up to literally everything else to show you all how it kind of goes. But for now I'm going to unplug that again just because otherwise I have no way to route this aux back around behind the head unit to actually plug it into the ICM3 when we're ready. One more thing we got to remove, and this is where we're actually going to connect our red and black wires to power the ICM, or the new ICM, I guess we can call it Frankenstein ICM. That is through our cigarette lighter. So if you push open your cigarette lighter here, you'll see if you look back, there's one tab that holds this in. This size flathead screwdriver fits in that little notch just about perfectly, and if I pry it towards the center, it unhooks it, and it just comes straight out. I'm going to close that just so it's a little bit easier. Now you'll see the connectors for your cigarette lighter. You have one that has a blue, red, and black. We're going to disconnect that one because that's where we're actually going to feed it into. So now the proper way to do this is to actually pull these wires out and like splice them in. That's a lot of effort. So I'm actually not going to do that. And the way that Stuart does it in his video is just sliding the wires in, and he hasn't had any issues. So I'm gonna, you know, do the same exact thing and just do that. So I'm gonna undo our wires here so we can get some play in them. The black one, of course, is gonna go into the black wire. And now the red one, of course, is going to go in with the blue and red wire. Now I'm going to plug this back in. You can see I just wanted to make sure there's a lot of glare, but our screen is powering on. There you go, you got the Saab logo. That's a really awesome touch, by the way. This is my first time seeing this turn on. So now that that's tested out, I have some electrical tape here, but I'm going to take these wires just because these can kind of pull out easily, and I'm just going to use some electrical tape to tie them around or wrap them around the existing wires so they stay in place. So now I kind of want to do the same thing I did with the aux. So if you follow this wire, you'll see it plugs in to this right here, this USB adapter. So I'm going to take this, and just like I did with the aux, kind of pull that up around. So now it's time to put all this back together. Try to make sure things aren't tangled up. It might be a little bit hard, but you don't want anything getting caught. So I'm just going to push all that back there for now. You can slide our... Takes a bit of force, but you'll hear it pop in. I just talked over it, but it did pop back in. Next is our EHU, and I didn't show this on camera because I was kind of just fiddling around with it. I'm going to also make sure that my other wires are way behind this and out of the way. That we have this big connector, we have a little white one right here, and we also have a third one that goes in the very back of the EHU that probably can't see too well on camera right here. So that one's all plugged up. Now again, I'm just gonna double check, make sure I don't have a bunch of wires that shouldn't be, you know, that might get pinched, because there's still a lot going on back here. And then my two connectors for the climate control as well, I wanna make sure those don't get pushed back there. Push this back in. You hear the two metal clips. Now I have some more leeway on this right connector too, because I realized when I pulled it out that last time I did this, this connector must have gotten wrapped around something, and therefore got all kind of tangled, and I didn't have very much leverage. But now I've got all the leverage I need, which is good. And pop that back in. Now I'm also going to put the car back into drive, take the key out because we don't need to mess with that anymore. First, what I want to do here is get all of our stuff reconnected that we did disconnect. So we'll do this first, then we'll do our aux. So again, if you do have the factory aux down in your armrest, you're going to lose function of that because we unplugged the factory aux in order to make this work. But I think that's a compromise that you can live with when you're doing a modification like that. And now Stuart also, in his video installing this, mentions that there is a way to retain the armrest aux, but you have to do a little bit more work for it. And again, I don't see why it's really worth it. So now the issue is finding a way to kind of try to neatly tuck all this stuff in here while still being very careful. So this might be a little bit less than graceful, to say the least. I have way too much wire up here now, but that's okay. We'll just kind of shove it back where it came from. Just gonna, you know, toss that all in there. Now, you'd think, oh, we can just duct tape it or use electrical tape, put it all on the top of the ICM. Unfortunately, we can't do that because we have the air vent that goes right on top of this. So you kind of just gotta push it all back behind here, and at the same time I just realized I need my actual plug for the ICM. I'm gonna get that plugged in right now so that way we can still maintain all these buttons working. Alright, I've got it like halfway in. I'm gonna have to mess with this off camera because I really need to pay attention to where stuff is, making sure it's not getting bent in a way it shouldn't. or things like that. So I'll catch up with you guys in hopefully a couple minutes when I have this all sorted. So I have this about 90% of the way in now. I think it really just needs one last good little push to get it in, but you can see I left the microphone out. So I asked Stuart, he said people have sent him, you know, videos on how they've hooked it up. Some people run it up through the A pillar here. That's a lot of work, if I'm gonna be completely honest, to run a microphone just to get it right here where it's gonna stick out and you're gonna see it anyways. But I think the most ingenious and best way to do this that he sent is to pretty much put it right here. There's a blank spot here anyways. I know convertibles have a little switch, but the car he sent it on that had it was a convertible. It was still just sitting right there. Didn't look out of place at all. So that's like a perfect spot for that, and it's right next to the ICM. So that's what I'm gonna do. Now to show you guys what's going on behind here, I was very careful again with this cable right here, this thin, weird looking one. I forget the name of it, I apologize. But I put the Raspberry Pi back there in that corner, kind of pushed it back as far as I could, and also rotated it a little bit to try and put as little strain on this thin black cable as I could. That's not the final spot of it. I'm gonna have to move it around. One of those things you can't really show on camera too well. So I'm gonna kind of mess around with that. Most of the other stuff is just pushed way back in there. Again, you wanna make sure this whole space up here is clear for your air vent. But yeah, so I'm gonna finish up getting that all in. I just wanted to show you guys exactly where I was putting it. Apologize for the bad glare on the screen. It's just the time of day it is. But it's all mounted in. You can see it's flush how it should be. Everything's just about in the same exact spot as it was before. Now for the microphone, I'm just gonna leave it right like this for now. I did put a little piece of tape over, there's a little ridge on the ICM right here. So that way I taped it to the ICM so it won't come in or out at all. Before we put our air vent on, I wanna make sure this thing works. See, starting to power on. So obviously, because it's turning on a phone every time it's doing this, it's not going to be as fast as the stock head unit. I did a little bit of fiddling around off camera because I wasn't sure exactly how to set up Apple CarPlay, if I'm being honest, but pretty much I went onto my phone, I just went to Bluetooth, and then the thing popped right up. AutoKit 9611, yours might be named something different, I don't know. So I clicked that, connected, then about 2 seconds later it said, would you like to use CarPlay? I hit use CarPlay. And would you look at that, popped up CarPlay. So my girlfriend has a 2021 RAV4, and that obviously has Apple CarPlay, and it is literally identical to that. Now obviously her car has a bigger screen, but you can see just how well this really works. I mean, this is so awesome. I absolutely love this. I got Waze on here. For some reason WebEx for work is on here. We're pretty much using all this off the aux function of the car. So remember, you gotta hit your source twice on the steering wheel. So now we're on CD. Hit it again, you go to aux. So now it should be working. Everything is working. Don't want to get copyrighted, but wow. This is so amazing just to have these modern features in a car that is now 19 years old. This is almost a 20-year-old car, and I have Apple CarPlay in it, and it looks exactly factory. It looks like it came this way from factory. I am so excited for this. I think I'm going to do a video in the future discussing all the features that this has. I'm also probably going to find a way to mount this microphone a little bit better because it's just kind of dangling here. This is future me interrupting current me. I do want to mention that there is one more thing I missed in the outro of my video that I didn't talk about, and that is with regards to the air vent. Now you'll see in the outro I don't actually reinstall the air vent because I was just going to do that off camera. I did do it off camera, and because you'll notice there's the HDMI ribbon that sticks out of here that connects to the screen, it pokes up a little bit. Now this is a complete oversight on my part. You actually need to cut part of the air vent out in order to make it fit, because when I put the air vent in, it actually broke that cable. See, I have it right here. Here's the broken end, and then the little part that plugs in the screen is right there. So that completely broke. So I ended up ordering a new one on Amazon that should be here in a couple days. But basically, I cut out part of the air vent. So you can see this portion that's cut out pretty much lines up exactly with where that HDMI sticks out. Plus, you know, a 1/2 inch of space on each side. I want to give myself plenty of room here. I just borrowed a friend's Dremel for this. It took about a minute, but that's exactly what I cut out. So I'm gonna let you guys know that. Please do not forget this step or you will end up like me and have to order yourself a new HDMI ribbon. So yeah, back to the outro. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, huge thank you to Stuart. Saab Unleashed is his channel. I'll have his channel, information on this kit, everything linked down below in the description. Highly recommend it. And again, if you don't have an ICM3, he has another kit that works for the ICM2. So I'm gonna shut off the camera now, put my air vent back in, and just mess around with this thing and enjoy it. And then probably in a week or so, I'll do another video talking about the features. So see y'all next time. This is way exceeded my expectations. I'm so blown away by this.